Hello there guys, SonOfChelsea back here again for another edition of my team selector and preview ahead of tomorrow night's game at home to Everton in the Premier League. It's a big game once again in the race for top four. Psychologically, you hope Chelsea will be massively boosted not only by the unbeaten run under Thomas Tuchel so far in recent months, but also the win at Anfield on Thursday. That I think was such a big win for Chelsea. I think for the squad to go there to get that win, the 3 points, they're absolutely massive in the race for top four. And Chelsea, I think if we can win tomorrow night, I think it'd be massive once again, not only in the race for top four, but I just think the continual confidence this team and group of players will get as a unit, at least for the rest of this season. And you think about the big games coming up, not only in the Premier League, but also the Champions League second leg. That's going to be a massive test for Chelsea, despite winning the first leg, the FA Cup, we're coming into the running of the Premier League now, and I think that as we saw last season, it can get very tense, and I just hope this team, with some favourable fixtures coming up, I think for Tuchel now, as we've gone through this quite difficult patch, Chelsea, you hope will go into that with the right mindset, the right frame of sort of confidence and form and chemistry. I think there are still some areas that you'd like to see Chelsea improve on, especially offensively. We're still a side that isn't scoring lots of goals, but we are getting good results at the moment, and you can't moan about that. But before we get into any of that good stuff, I want to ask you guys, if you haven't already, hit that subscribe button and a notification bell so you never miss an upload. Also hit the like button if you're enjoying the content, because it helps out the channel as well. Team news, Thomas Tuchel did his post-match press conference, obviously after Liverpool, and also matched it with the pre-match presser for Everton. So it was a bit unique, and I'm sure Chelsea have trained since then. So we're not quite sure about two players, Thiago Silva and Tammy Abraham. I think it's safe to assume that Thiago is nearly ready for a game. Whether he is brought back into a game of this nature, I highly doubt it, to be honest. I'd be quite stunned. And given the way that defence is operating at the moment, I think there's a nice chemistry right there. They're getting clean sheets. They're all playing with confidence and flow at the moment. So do you want to disrupt that? But you also know the quality of Thiago Silva can be massive for Chelsea. So it's a big decision for Thomas Tuchel to make going into these games, when he'll bring back Thiago Silva, giving him maybe a little bit more rest. And Tammy Abraham, of course, didn't feature, has that ankle problem, which seems to be sustained after that Newcastle game where he picked it up and was forced off. Tuchel didn't bring it up when he wasn't in the squad for Man United, but he did bring it up pre-Liverpool, and of course Tammy didn't travel to that game, so we'll have to see if he's ready to feature in the squad once again. But the top four race, of course, Everton, another rival in this. Everton have done so well this season. I do want to bring up this because it's a weird parallel. It's a striking parallel for where the world is, not only in terms of the football world, but the world in general. Tomorrow, the 8th of March, will be 365 days exactly since the last time we played Everton at Stamford Bridge, winning 4-0. But it was the last time Chelsea fans fully were in the bridge, at full capacity at Stamford Bridge. And that's really, of course, after that game, the Premier League took a hiatus before Project Restart. And yeah, it's weird, isn't it? As the channel personally, I think I was under 5k subs at the time. Very, very different world. It really is with football, and it's such a shame. Fans aren't back in the stadiums anytime soon. Hopefully by the end of this season, we think May time, we may be able to get some fans in for some games. I think there's been some discussion recently of moving a game back in May in the Premier League, just one of those last games to get fans back in. It's so craved, I think, at the moment to get fans across the country back into stadiums, and hopefully when it's safe and ready to do so, we can get Stamford Bridge full again for Thomas Tuchel, to introduce Thomas Tuchel to Chelsea fans. But let's take a look at Everton, the opposition. Carlo Ancelotti doing a wonderful job this season to get them into this position right here, where they can potentially be in the top four by the end of the season. I think is just incredible. And Carlo, there was a lot of rubbish, I think, spouted when he got the Everton job. It's probably been his toughest assignment. He's been at a lot of clubs that do have a lot of investment, in terms of the pedigree of those clubs competing for top titles. But that doesn't rule out what he's done in the game, which is incredible. But I think this job he's done at Everton, for me, has only cemented how brilliant of a coach he is. Chelsea fans know that, given the 09-10 team. I think in terms of title winning teams I've seen at Chelsea, I think it's between the 04-05 team and the 09-10 team. I had a discussion with Nini a few months back about this, and it's really your preference, because what he created at Chelsea was stunning. It really was. And what he's done at Everton this season has been really impressive. They're in good form. They've won 3 of the last 5, including a massive win at Anfield. A lot of teams are winning at Anfield. Even Fulham are winning at Anfield now. But that was such a big win historically for them, psychologically too. And you think about the draw they got draw, late draw at Man United. They'll come to the bridge feeling confident. And they'll come to the bridge feeling confident not only because of their recent results, but also the fact they beat Chelsea earlier in the season. And I expect the way they set up in this game will be very similar. Even though it looks like a 4-4-2, as we know in the modern game, you do see one of those attackers sort of sit a little bit deeper. That's usually Richarlison as the wide player to create an extra man in midfield to sort of give that structure. And I definitely think they're going to be sitting deeper. It's going to be a low block, and they're going to try and hit out to Dominic Calvert-Lewin. He's been a brilliant focal point all season. Another great young English talent who could be at the Euros in the summer as a striker. He scored 18 goals for Everton. He's naturally their top goal scorer. He gave problems to Thiago Silva and Kurt Zouma back in December that inevitably led to that Edouard Mendy mistake that decided the game. Gylfi Sigurdsson scoring the penalty. It'll be the same issue once again, I think, in this game, and it's going to be on the likes of Andreas Christensen, Antonio Rudiger, Dave, especially those two, Christensen and Rudiger. I don't expect Dave to be challenging Calvert-Lewin, especially the position on the pitch he plays. He's sort of more targeted onto the left. So you look at Ben Chilwell, you look at Antonio Rudiger, and maybe even Christensen, who physically I have had doubts about before, but he's performing so well. As I think Andre Gomez and Doucouré bring a real balance to that midfield too as well. I'm interested to see if Carlo does change it given the opposition, given coming up against Thomas Tuchel's Chelsea in our recent form. So it'll be interesting to see on that front. But I think that's the main threat. Dominic Calvert-Lewin, Richarlison trying to hit the ball long from deep, trying to bypass the midfield. And it's usually Calvert-Lewin getting those knockdowns to then into the feet of someone like Richarlison that they can really thrive off. And even Gylfi Sigurdsson, who can come back into the team as well and create. So that's the danger for Chelsea to deal with tomorrow night. And can we nullify their front two, especially who can be so productive in the final third? But I think in terms of the way Chelsea are going to approach this game, I think, our use of possession has been the main part of us defending. Tuchel said as much. It's true, our use of possession to take the threat away from opposition. I think we do need to understand, and I think I have to admit that I did have my doubts before Southampton, before Man United, before Atletico and Liverpool, especially the midfield two of Jorginho, Kovacic. Can they deal with a higher pressing team? And Chelsea have really nullified all of those threats. I know there's some frustration over Southampton and as well, especially Man United at home. We could have won that game. But defensively, Chelsea haven't been exposed too much recently, especially with that back three of Dave, Christensen and Rudiger. And the way Jorginho performed the other night so wonderfully, and Kova has been playing well under Thomas Tuchel, I think you have to have belief in that midfield too. I think the issue has been, as we've seen recently, is Chelsea's ability to create from deep, but also in the final third. And I think that's an issue as we go into tomorrow night's game, finding that right balance of course being cautious and trying to get that right element of control in possession, but also wanting to add a little bit more flair and energy into that final third. Can Chelsea score more than 1 or 2 goals? Because at the moment you don't really back us to be that deadly in front of goal, and we're not creating tons of chances, which is a little bit of a concern, but you hope over time under Tuchel that will start to come to fruition. But let's have a look at my team. As you'd expect, not too radically different from the one that faced Liverpool on Thursday. Mendy still in goal, another clean sheet for him, but Dave, Christensen, Rudiger, that back three, the same back three that is yet to concede a goal to an opposition player. The one opposition player that did score against us was Mina for Southampton, but Kurt Zouma was playing that day instead of Andreas Christensen. They've kept 5 clean sheets in a row now, that back three. It's so wonderful to see the improvement defensively under Thomas Tuchel. We look so much more structured, the chemistry between those three, and even if Thiago Silva is slightly ready, I'd still back Christensen especially. And let's take a look at Andreas Christensen. I focused on him recently. I saw a report from Matt Law today that apparently he could be getting a contract extension at the end of the season. It's testament to the way he's fought his way back into this team and the way he's impressed under Thomas Tuchel. And I think really for him, it's about cementing that place now. It's about having that consistent run of form. He's had a really good consistent run of form, but it's about extending that now for me to really nail down that place, because he's going to have competition, not only this season from the likes of Thiago Silva and Kurt Zouma, but next season as well. If Chelsea try and sign a new centre-back in the summer, which we expect them to do if it's a big centre-back, can Christensen cope with that? This is the best chance he has to make himself a guaranteed starter at Chelsea, and let's hope he continues that good form, the composure on the ball, especially as I expect Chelsea to have a lot more of it, but also dealing like he did against Sheffield United with a bit more of a physical threat against Dominic Calvert-Lewin. But you've got to back Christensen at the moment because he's proven people wrong, like myself. Just going through the rest of the team here, I'm a little bit conflicted over Reece or Callum Hudson-Odoi wing-back, who could return here. Didn't play at all, Callum, on Thursday night, so he'll be very fresh, and if you want to sort of rotate the team in a congested period, you may see Callum come in at right back. You could also see him shift up further and play as one of that two behind the central striker. That's much more of a fluid front three. But I've gone for him maybe as a wing back. I think Reece James has performed well, got back into the team. Cover Jorginho, I think once again, controlling possession, the way those two sort of dovetail with each other, I think can work. And also Tuchel gave some comments about managing N'Golo Kante's fitness, which was an issue last season. And I think maybe Kante will just be taken out of this game here, and you'd maybe want to bring him back for the intensity of playing against Leeds on the Saturday that's coming up. So I think that Kante may be rested for this game, and Georgie and Cover will come back into the double six. And then we come into that front three, and I don't think it's going to be different. I'm just going to stick with the same front three. And I know tactically we're looking towards Olivier Giroud, right? You do think about a deeper defence here and having Giroud's sort of physicality, link-up play. He did face Everton, of course, earlier in the season. He was starting that game, and we didn't really create a lot, to be honest, against a deep defence. So it's not always that sort of the safe answer. We know what Giroud's strengths are, and you would think in a game of this nature, a bit like against Atletico Madrid, you may want Giroud. As I said in the podcast clip I uploaded yesterday, every other Saturday podcast I'm now doing with Jay McIntosh, please go and listen to the full episode, link in the description box below. We spoke about sort of the false nine, and for me, why under Tuchel so far, I've been more impressed and more energised by seeing not a natural focal point. You could argue Timo Werner is that natural focal point, but when we know he starts in this system, he naturally drifts to the left. And I think maybe Mason Mount and Hakim Ziyech, who I'm a bit surprised that I'd be putting him in the starting 11 given what I was saying, I think, after the Man United game. But, getting more fitness, I think he is taking up some interesting positions. And you do think if we're going to attack a bit more down the right, that may favour him. Hopefully, in a game where we're not going to be looking to counter so much like we were against the high line of Liverpool, he may get a little bit more on the ball in this game, be a little bit more creative, trying to influence things in possession. So hopefully Ziyech, if he does start once again, can take his opportunity. And Money Mays too, scoring the wonderful winner at Anfield the other night. We know now there's more responsibility on him to get into that final third and take more shots at goal. So that's just my opinion, but I know some people will have difference of opinion and maybe think that Tammy could come in here and also Olivier Giroud too. It'd be interesting to see what you guys say, because I don't think there are any obvious answers at the moment. We've just won at Anfield, but I do think it's obvious to point out that maybe he sticks with that front three and thinks to himself, Ziyech, Werner, Mount, that's my front three. If they play a bit more, maybe that chemistry will start to find itself. Ziyech will get his fitness back up, get his sort of chemistry with the team, his confidence back up, and then that may work. So maybe he'll stick with that. We'll have to wait and see for tomorrow's game. But that is my lineup for the game against Everton. Let me know yours in the comments below. Thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. If you did enjoy it, hit that subscribe button and the notification bell so you never miss an upload. Follow me on Twitter at SonOfChelsea, and I'll see you again.